live in Washington, D.C., and I'm going to tell you about my time working for an NGO in South Africa. I worked for Fair Trade and Tourism in South Africa when I was a legal intern while I was attending Georgetown Law for the summer. What they did is they certified different tourism and travel businesses as being fair trade. So they would examine the budgets, the employment practices, and then if they got a fair trade certification, then they were advertised. So my job was to bring in the human trafficking expertise so that anti-human trafficking became part of their fair trade certification. As part of my work was about kind of getting the business sector to advocate to the legislature for an anti-human trafficking law. But the first part of my job was to make connections with big businesses and do trainings about how to identify trafficking. They were all primarily Black and Asian. In South Africa, the trafficking is inter-country. So like from rural poor Black Africans to the cities, but it's also from other countries. It was paid for by the ILO and the UN and the EU. So it was a big kind of international campaign. So first I went all over and I did trainings for managers. Once they got the trainings, then they did trainings to their staff. And then they did a big thing where they signed something called the Code, the Tourism Child Protection Code of Conduct. And we did a big press event. South Africa had all the usual challenges of a developing country. I mean, it's post-apartheid, and I worked in an office that was pretty mixed in terms of all the different tribes from Africa. And there was definitely some interesting conversations about race and class. It's usually the business sector that starts doing good things or things differently, not the government. And that the government then follows behind. So I found that obviously that's different here, because often it takes the government to make the business sector do something that isn't self-interested. Just know that nonprofits are can have a very different role in society. Oh, what advice? Well, do it. I loved it. I loved my time in South Africa.
I'm Jim Ujic. I was as a Peace Corps response volunteer in South Africa from 13 to 14 for about 11 months. I volunteered with an organization called SAVAC, and I was responsible for developing a social enterprise for them. So they focused on savings groups, and they went to rural communities in near the Drakensbergers Mountains and in KZN, and they focused on rural communities, and my responsibility or role was to develop a business model where they could sell social goods to the communities they worked in for a small profit on their side, and the community leaders that they were working with would earn income through that. So the product that we ended up picking out was a solar lamp, where communities that didn't have access to electricity were able to utilize that. Originally it started off with the Ford Foundation, and they got a grant to start the savings group organization, to start implementing savings group methodology in South Africa. They then went on to get different grants through a bunch of different organizations. It gives people a venue to loan money or lend money they wouldn't normally have, and since these communities aren't banked, so there aren't banks in the communities, there's not another option. So you either have family members that are giving you money, or you have loan sharks, but sometimes you can't go to your family members and neighbors for certain things. So it's beneficial for the community, beneficial for the organization, and it teaches the benefit of saving money, and there's a whole curriculum basically for each meeting, and they go over different things. The rural communities, they also end up receiving government subsidies basically. A lot of people receive subsidies for their family and for different things, and so they had access to some amount of money for subsistence living, but you kind of have to look at it that I think in other parts of Africa, like they have land that they can farm or they can do something with, and in South Africa, these people were literally like displaced off of like good farming land for like the bad farming land. So probably what plays into like ANC's decision to like fund different communities, it's probably the way they voted, and that might play a larger role in that discussion too. When they're going to a new community, they have trouble like getting people to trust them, to believe that the methodology work. With the social enterprise side, it's hard to become a reputable seller in like a small community, even if you want to be, and even if the people respect you, because different expectations for different people. You don't want a policeman going around selling like solar lamps. You don't want your neighbor that's like a stay-at-home mom. If it's like out of the cultural norm for you to do that, then it's hard to do that. Savings groups, the other problems they had was it was pretty easy to get people going once you had like one group that was succeeding, where they were making money like off of the group as a whole, and you'd slowly build it up. One of the negatives within that kind of like organizational structure, if they're really successful and they do have a lot of money that's coming into the group, they could lead to violence in the other way, where you have like $10,000 sitting under someone's bed. It's not a good idea. So South Africa is a complicated place, and it at like first glance you kind of look at it and you're like, oh well, this is kind of nice. And if you go to Cape Town, like you have a good time, it's great. And you can go to Stellenbosch, like it's great wines and like it's like old world charm almost. But it gets really complicated because you realize that there's like this giant class structure that may be different now, but it's kind of still there. So like I guess it would take years to figure out like some of the cultural stuff.